So today I have with me Aya, who's originally from Japan, and Vlad.
Hi.
Hi, from the Ukraine, and your two kids. It's Akira. You want to introduce yourself? Akira, and
My name's Saya.
Saya. Hey, welcome to the show. So I have you guys coming in. We're going to talk a little bit about the Fukushima disaster that just happened a year ago almost in Japan. And then Vlad happened to be a child growing up in the Ukraine when the Chernobyl accident occurred. So maybe I'll start with that. You remember when the accident happened?
Yeah, I remember the day very well, and I remember what was happening afterwards. So it was a very sunny spring day, and I remember playing after school. And towards the end of the day, my parents, for some reason, started saving water. So they filled the bathtub with water, all the pots, jars, cups were all filled with water. Because somehow the news got through that something happened, and then the first reaction was to save water. That's what I remember, first day.
Yeah.
And then the official announcement came third day of the disaster, and that's the time when we started throwing things away. So my dad brought a dosimeter from work, and I remember this strange clicking sound. And then the higher the frequency was, then, the more radioactive the thing was. And I remember my favorite pants had to go, the one that I was wearing that day. Most of our furniture, carpets, curtains, blankets, everything had to go.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were people? I imagine people were all doing that similarly, right? And so were there big people were just taking lots of things to an incinerator or to?
Well, there were really large containers organized by military. There were also fire trucks that came into the city. I lived in a big city, Kiev. It's about 4.5 million. And the fire trucks were washing the houses, these huge high-rises. And people had to throw things in the designated containers. Now, before the end of the school, before the end of May, whole school was evacuated. And I found it fascinating because I boarded the train, and it took about 17 hours away from Kiev in the middle of forest, and there I spent 3.5 months.
Wow.
With my class and my classmates and the whole school.
In the forest?
Yes.
Huh. For the whole summer, basically.
Whole summer, yeah. I was there writing letters to my parents and enjoying it.
Wow, so they took all the kids to a forest, and were you camped out then? Was it?
No, it was like a scout camp.
Okay.
In the Soviet Ukraine, it was called Pioneer Camp.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Was it as a kid, was it kind of hidden from you what was going on, or were you how aware were you?
I was fully aware.
Yeah.
What was happening, and we were measuring radiation.
Right.
How
Or what was the feeling about it?
Well, I could tell that my parents were scared.
Yeah.
And I had to drink red wine, which I didn't like, but they put some sugar in it. So apparently red wine acted as, it had a chelating effect on iodine and strontium. And I also was made to eat a very foul-tasting sea cabbage, or like seaweed, which I didn't like at all at that time. Now I love it, but before I didn't like it. So this is again the chelate, the iodine. So all these things were available, and the information was out. What to do, how. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Huh. How long did it take to kind of return to somewhat normal life?
Yeah. Next summer I was swimming, basically, in the same river which was contaminated. So it didn't take too long for me. But, I mean, I heard the news about liquidators. So people who went to Chernobyl and they had the 10-minute shifts where they would receive a lifetime of radiation, and they were called liquidators. And so they were given pensions and houses, apartments by government, and relocated somewhere else because for life they were sick. And there were thousands and thousands of these people. And then around that time, my family was looking for a new apartment, and then they couldn't get one because whole districts of Kiev were filled with refugees and people who were moved from the affected areas. And these village people were put in city apartments. Uh-huh. And it's funny that first floors of these apartments were kind of like it was a big privilege to live on first floors because you had a little piece of land. Uh-huh. And this is what the villagers, really liked. Mm-hmm. So they put flowers, tomatoes, cucumbers, and these tiny plots in front of the 15-story urban dwellings. Yeah.
How far is Kiev from the accident?
I think it's around same distance as Tokyo from the Fukushima. Even closer. Yeah. But what makes it even more dangerous is the river Pripyat, whose waters were used for cooling the station. It joins Dnipro, a river which flows through Kiev. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow. Mm-hmm. And then this recent disaster, I guess there hasn't been a bigger one since Chernobyl. So this is kind of on the similar scale.
Yeah. And a lot of people are affected, of course. And then the earthquake itself was really, really influential, and the tsunami as well. So it was already devastating enough, to have this impact on the land and the coastline of all this northern part of Japan. But then what was really different this time was including that Fukushima nuclear power plant, the accident. And then that is still not sure what's gonna happen from now on. And then a lot of people have a mixed information. The government is saying it's okay, it's safe. And then I kind of understand so that the people are not panic. And then, but at the same time, there are other information which is, going around, and then, the people are really confused, what to believe, and then how to really get over this.
Do you have a number of, do you have family anywhere near the accident, or?
Not in that Fukushima area, but I have few friends there, and then northern part. And I used to have my yoga student who recently moved back to that area. And then it's not in Fukushima, but they were living in Ibaraki, and she was pregnant and with a 3-year-old kid. And then so when I heard this news, we were living in Germany. So I just immediately contacted people if they're okay. And then in Sendai, where the tsunami hit the most, I have many more friends as well. So I emailed everybody, but I couldn't get back for a while. Of course, the infrastructure is totally, down. So I understood. But then this one lady I was a bit concerned about after receiving all other emails from other friends. And then finally, probably like 2 weeks later, she emailed me, and then she said, well, she's pregnant as well. And then she decided to just evacuate from the area to go back to her parents' house, which is south. And then, but it's been really horrible for her because she wanted to know the right information, but it was all mixed. And she didn't want to see the scenes on TV because it's really depressing. But at the same time, for the sake of the child, she really wanted to be accurate about, what she has to do. So by researching and then getting information such as like no milk today, no water from this area, she was checking every day because every day it changes.
Wow.
So she said a lot of people got really distressed and then worried and then very negative about the whole thing. I don't blame them. And then she's a really positive, person, but she had high fever for about a week. So that much you can tell how stressed the people are around the area,
so
not just in
one
Fukushima.
day they say you can drink the milk, and another next day they're like you can't drink the milk. Or
well, of course, once they say okay, this is the certain level, then this is still the safety parameter, and if it exceeds, then they will tell you.
I see.
So a lot of people said, well, we can't take this anymore.
Yeah,
of course. And then I read the news that at one point the children's school district were allowed to, let the kids play in the playground. And then it was supposed to be like a 20 microsievert. But I also heard that only the 5 radiation level is allowed for the nuclear power plant workers. So how could that 20 microsievert is allowed for the children's playground? So I was, seeing the news. I remember that all these Fukushima representatives, came to Tokyo to protest. And then they had the dirt in the hand. And then, they were talking to the people saying, like, if you think this is safe, why can't you eat it?
The dirt.
Yeah. And then they don't take them away. The government didn't move quickly enough. I mean, they have a lot of issues to think about. So, of course, I'm sure they were doing the best that they could do. But then, all they could do was just checking,
checking levels.
Yeah, checking levels every day. Or if it is, below the 20, and then they said it's okay. But it's not. And then every day, the parents, some volunteers came and they checked, and then they were having all this, how do you call this, to cover the mouth. And then the children are carrying this, how do you call this, Geiger counter.
Counters.
Yeah. And they just check. So, and then every day they were asking whether they can drink the water, whether they can take a milk, which vegetable can they eat, or how many minutes they can go outside, or, vice versa. Should we move? Should we stay?
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of people, having a different opinions. Some of them, even though they want to move away, there is no governmental support after the, beyond the 30 kilometers radius, which means that they have to move on their own choice. Right.
So there's people relatively close that are still getting radiation, poisoning, or having the effects of radiation, but then unable to move because they have no support.
Yeah, and then because to move, you have to have a financial support.
Yeah.
And I think in Chernobyl case that they were supported by the government, or they got some allowance so that they could evacuate right away. I heard it was like a 100 kilometer radius, something, right?
Well, the zones were numbered 1 to 4,
right?
And these zones were wherever the cloud or precipitation from Chernobyl went, and so there were really random places where government went to measure radiation and denoted this to be a zone 4, this to be a zone 3, and so on. So in these zones, of course, all agricultural activity was stopped, and also some wells were closed. So only the deep wells that took maybe artesian water were allowed to be used. So my grandma was actually from one of these areas, and a lot of wells were closed. So her well was not closed because it was clean. So in these zones, people got pension or special allowance that help them, I guess, buy produce from other areas, but not enough to move to a different place.
Mm-hmm.
So really, people who were moved were people immediately within this the main zone, Chernobyl zone.
Hey, Akira. So what do you what's your impression of all this? Can you like what do you what do you know about Fukushima? Have you talked about it with your mom and dad?
No.
He was singing the song.
Uh-huh.
Idaho Japanese Association was contacted by this a Japanese exchange student from Iowa if we can sing this song together called 311 I Love You Japan from USA. And of course, for Japanese people, it's not just about Fukushima, it's the whole area in the northern part, including the earthquake and then tsunami affected people. So we send this message to the people in Japan to try to sort of encourage, no matter what happened, we can keep going. And so as a whole family, we joined this group. And then, so he was singing this song all the time.
How's the song go? Do you remember it?
No.
He's a bit shy.
Yeah.
He's singing at home all the time.
That's okay.
Yeah, so come back to that point that that people couldn't leave Fukushima. There are a lot of financial constraints. So some families, would like to go, but they cannot. And then that creates sort of like the pressure. And then
to be stuck there just creates this anxiety, I bet, and just
also sort of like a loss of the sense of community, because this Fukushima area is, as you can see in this.
So are these pictures from?
Yeah, this is Fukushima. I went there to teach at the university.
Wow.
And that was like a long time ago. It's not, around this time.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, it's an agricultural area with a lot of rice field. And the people there are very, very humble and simple. Very nice. Because land for them is so important because it's such a farming,
farming
community. And a lot of them, grow rice. And then that's one of the most beautiful areas in Japan to produce a beautiful, great quality of rice. And I heard from this friend of mine who lives in Boise, who is from Aizu in Fukushima. They have a really tight community, sense of community. And then they have a really strong sense of history, which is related to samurai spirit. And then there happen to be 47 samurais who went against big power, the governmental power that time. And then they all had to die in the end. So in this area, this kind of historical story.
So this is like a legend from the area.
That
there were 47 warriors.
Yes. Samurais,
Samurais that confronted the
big power to protect the laws.
Lord.
Oh, the Lord of
that area. Right.
I gotcha.
So there is a strong sense of history that they're so proud of. And then this kind of historical stories are told many times, over and over. So as you can see, that these people really are connected to the history, to the land, and then very agricultural based and very special.
Yeah.
So imagine that community is broken because of all these different opinions, who live where and then who stay and why don't you stay? We have to come, stay here and then protect the land. What are you doing? But I have to protect my children. So imagine that sense of community is broken away. So, the accident didn't take over just the houses or no, I cannot say just, the jobs or the friends or family members, but that spirit of the community is also washed away or, broken.
If it was just the earthquake, and the flood, and just physical damage, it'd be one thing. But it seems like there's something that happens
which lasts longer. Yeah.
When there's radioactivity and there's this unknown, it's this invisible poison basically that's everywhere. That you don't know how much you have of it, how much you've absorbed. That seems like it could be really, like you said, hard on community and create anxiety and especially when they're hearing different things from different sources and worried that maybe the government's trying to downplay the situation. I can see that could really, like you said, it could just break a community in a way. But at the same time, it seems like to some degree people have come together around this and there's some transformative things happening as well.
I mean, definitely people started to, get together and then, because there's a spirit of we have to make it happen. Otherwise, there's no life from now. And then for the responsibility of the children or the next generation, they have to repair whatever is damaged and then keep going because they cannot be dead, spiritually as well. So there's a life to take care of. There are a lot of people who are making a tremendous effort every day to make their life better over there. And I want to keep focusing and emphasizing the positive side of it. And when I saw this, the report, one report where the Fukushima delegates of farmers went to New York to have some kind of presentation, a seminar. And then one woman, I think she was an organic farmer, so it was really hard for her that this, accident happened and then she cannot even grow her agriculture. She really felt the only thing that we can do right now is trying to live really humble and then self-reliant, and so that we can rely on what we eat. But having said all that, in the end, she said, you know what Fukushima means in Japanese? Fuku means happiness. And Shima means island. So it was like this for us, for generations and generations. So I hope the message that we can deliver to the world will be the message which would change the lifestyle or the awareness of the world. Because then we can call this island, the island, that land, the island of happiness. So there is some, it's been a harsh, very hard hardship, but if we can do this and deliver this message, there's the role for the people in Fukushima to play, and we have to pursue that.
Yeah.
And then, for the people who suffered from this direct, experiences, to say this, I felt really touched, and then we cannot just get depressed and then say, oh my God, that happened and there's no future. No, we cannot say this. So we have to have that faith and then strength to be able to recover the whole area.
That's moving, yeah.
Yeah.